Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be doing Classical Reissues 101 Part 3. If you haven't seen the other two installments, I'll leave links in the description box below. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Just hit the subscribe notification bell and you'll be sure to get all the new content that's coming up. So back in the beginning of MoFi's history, they did several classical titles, something they haven't attempted since. These are special because they are pressed on JVC super vinyl, and they did a wonderful job with these. One of them I've mentioned prior in the MoFi overview video. This is Riccardo Muti and the Philadelphia Orchestra, Pictures at an Exhibition, and the Firebird. This one is a must-have. It's a sonic blockbuster, hair-raising dynamics, super silent vinyl, beautiful mastering, great performance, highly, highly recommended. One of my favorite versions of that piece. This was also mentioned on Arthur Salvatore's list of super recordings. He listed it in the top in the Divinity. So, I agree with a lot of his rankings, and that one certainly belongs there. Very, very good recording. This one as well. This one was drawn from the Decca catalog, where that one was from EMI. This is The Pines of Rome by Lauren Mazel and the Cleveland Orchestra. Also, on the level of that one, very, very shocking dynamics in that record as well. This one was a little unusual. This one is an EMI recording. It appeared on the Absolute Sound Super Disc list. And in its original incarnation, it was on one disc, and they kind of crammed a lot of music onto that, onto those two sides. And MoFi decided to do it on 2 records. It's not at 45, it's at 33, but it's spread out much more so that sonically it's superior to the original pressing. Interestingly, they didn't list the whole album as worthy of super disc status. Fantasia and Fugue in C minor was the piece that they thought deserved that status. And it does sound wonderful on this. Interestingly, when I opened this up, I haven't listened to it in quite a while. This fell out, and this is, this is the original flyer for MoFi. And this is the beginning of their history, starting with the Mystic Moods Orchestra, through to Supertramp, and all the way to the Beatles' Abbey Road. Quite a remarkable progression. Brad Miller started recording train sounds and thunderstorms, and then moved on to mixing that with easy listening instrumentals for the Mystic Moods records. And pretty soon he was doing Crime of the Century, and the rest is history. So that was kind of an interesting thing to fall in my lap. I'm going to keep that in there. So that's MoFi. A couple of highlights from their catalog. Another company that drew on Decca is ORG. ORG is Original Recordings Group, and they've put out a very, very special 45 RPM series that's not getting enough attention, I don't think. This is one of their releases. They use the original London covers, and sometimes they can be very amusing. I don't know what the art department was thinking, but when you compare some of them to the Decca counterparts, it's like, wow, what were they thinking? But there's nothing really too much in the middle here. 2 45 RPM discs, mastered by Bernie Grunman, limited to 2,500 each. To me, they are the best representation of these records. Just wonderful, wonderful pressings, wonderful masterings. The 45 definitely benefits the sound, and really, really highly recommended. I don't know why they're not getting more attention, but very, very nicely done records. Another one they did is an audiophile favorite, Absolute Sound Super Disc List, España by Argenta. And this one also is a fabulous record. If you haven't heard, I'm sure you've heard it because every audiophile has a copy of that in some form or another. But wonderful record as well. They did this one, the Scotch Symphony, and apparently I've heard that the original master tape was lost for this record. I don't know if they were able to do it from a copy tape or what, or when that tape was not usable or lost, but it sounds very, very good as well. One of the most fun records in the Decca catalog is this one, Suite Española. I'm showing you the org version, and they use the original London cover. Also excellent, excellent record. A lot of fun to listen to, sonically stunning, beautiful record. And my favorite I say for last on the org label, the Three-Cornered Hat. One of my peak listening experiences was hearing this when I first got my Magnaplaner 1.6 loudspeakers, and it just took me places that I didn't know I could go. A wonderful, wonderful record. Beautiful. They are trying to continue this series. A lot of these, they've announced several others, but they've been on pre-order for like years now. So I would say support this record label and these particular reissues. They're wonderful, and I don't think you'd be disappointed by any of them. That brings us to Speaker's Corner. Now, Speaker's Corner drew mainly on Decca, but they have done some other labels as well. One of their early ones was a 45, and this is the same record that I just showed you, the Scotch Symphony. They call it Mendelssohn in Scotland. This is the original British cover. And they did it on 4 45 RPM discs, single-sided discs. I don't know if this was that successful. I think it was a little bit of a overkill for that record. The org sounds superior to my taste, but I thought that was worth mentioning because it was one of their few 45s. This one is wonderful, audiophile classic. I have it in so many incarnations. London Blueback, Decca, Stereo Treasury, everything. And this one holds up really well. I think it's probably the best version of this. Org also did this one. I haven't heard it, but if my previous experience is anything to go on, I think it's probably the org probably wins, because everything that I've heard so far has beat the Speaker's Corners. Here's another early one, the Firebird, using the original Decca cover. Also a really interesting early stereo. This one was wonderful. This is an expensive record to get in any form besides budget reissues, but if you try to search out a Decca of this, you'll see, ouch, the price tag. This is a great way to obtain this record, and it sounds great. It's wonderful. A beautiful cover too. This one was an audiophile favorite with the Absolute Sound crowd, La Fille Mal Gardée. It's a lot of fun to listen to. Don't be put off by the kind of weird looking cover. It's really a really engaging record and lovely sound, stunning sound. Decca London did a second series called the 6000 series, and here's a couple from that series. These are by Zubin Mehta in the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and they were a favorite of Harry Pearson. A lot of them appeared on the Absolute Sound Super Disc list as well. This is Holes to Planets, and a very worthy reading of that as well. Sounds great. This one, also by Zubin Mehta. This appears on, well, not this version, but this recording appears on Anthony Salvatore's best-sounding Divinity list. Also a wonderful record, a little bit avant-garde, a little noisy. If you haven't heard Edgar Varese before, you've got to take a listen to that. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Sonically, really good. So also, Speaker's Corner dipped their toe into the Mercury Living Present series, and Wilma Cozart-Fine did 6 for Classic Records. She came out of retirement to do the engineering on 6 titles for them, and that kind of left a void after she left and decided not to do any more. This one is one of the ones that they did, and it's interesting because it's an organ record, and Classic didn't do any of the organ records. So this is welcome, and it's particularly after the Golden Imports series, which also did many of the organ records, but they didn't come off very well. They cut the bass, and that just doesn't work on an organ record. This one's full frequency stereophonic sound, and it's quite the record. You really need the right equipment to reproduce it. This one got a lot of attention when it first came out, and it holds up beautifully. Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 3, and Tal Dorati. This was originally from 35 millimeter magnetic film rather than tape, and it's a wonderful record. Excellent, excellent. They also did this one as well. Paul Paret and the Detroit Symphony. And another Dorati record, Billy the Kid, the Copland disc, Billy the Kid and Appalachian Spring. So that was really nice that they tackled those. They did several others too, worth checking out. I noticed that several of them are still available, so that's a wonderful way to get really clean copies of Mercury records. The originals were not pressed on very good vinyl. Well, maybe the 1S pressing but anything subsequent was pretty iffy. So those are very welcome. Last but not least, or almost last but not least, Speaker's Corner did an unusual choice, and that was a Westminster Hi-Fi record, Erica Marini, the Brahms Violin Concerto. Very hard to obtain in its original form in any kind of good shape. So that was very welcome as well. I like that record quite a bit. And just to throw in something at the end, which is from Universal, of all places. They redid a Telarc title. And this is one of Telarc's bestsellers, Carmina Burana. And you've for sure heard the music, at least the beginning, O Fortuna, which they play a lot at the beginning of concerts or sports games. It's a very rousing piece of music, to say the least. This was a really good sounding record to begin with, and it sounds good here. It's done on 180 gram vinyl. A welcome reissue because the originals were costing up to $200 at one time. So this one was a nice addition to the reissue catalog. So that kind of takes us through the end of classical reissues that I've noted. There are others, and if some come to my attention that I think deserve your attention, I will certainly bring them up in another video. But for now, that's it for classical reissues. The series is complete, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.